reserve major and an Iraqi war veteran. Stephanie Ramos, welcome to Big 550 KTRS.
Thank you so much.
So let's first get to the news of all this, and that is it seems that everybody was caught off guard with this, even the Pentagon and his quote-unquote generals. Nobody knows what this exactly means. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, the folks at the Pentagon were not expecting this. They were caught off guard. And when asked, what does this mean? What's going on? Is this policy? And just all of these questions, the Pentagon spokesperson just referred all questions to the White House. That basically call the White House.
And the White House referred questions back to the Pentagon?
Right. Well, somewhat. I mean, they say that they're looking at this. They're looking at the policy, and they're going to move forward, working together with the Pentagon and the DoD. I mean, we know that just last month, Secretary Mattis decided to delay the review of allowing transgender individuals to join the military. This coming on the heels of former Secretary of Defense Ash Carter's decision under President Obama, decision to allow transgender people to serve openly in the military. That came last year. About a year later, last month, Secretary Mattis delaying that. And then the president's tweet yesterday. So there's a lot of confusion right now. There is, from folks that are serving in the military, transgender people who are serving in the military. They don't know what's going to happen. Just yesterday I met with a transgender woman who used to be in the Army but is married to a transgender man who is currently in the Air Force. So they've got an interesting situation. They went through the transition while they were in the military, and they're advocates for their community. And she was telling me that she doesn't know, that there was a sense of panic. They live on an Air Force base, and they don't know what will happen from this, but they feel confident that this is not yet policy. It was simply a tweet, even though the White House has said that the president's tweets are official statements. But this is still kind of up in the air.
Yeah.
They don't know. They don't know what's going to happen.
Stephanie, you sit at a unique point as a member of the media, also as a veteran. And the question with the gays in the military or the African Americans when they wanted to ban segregation during Harry Truman's era, the argument was it's not good for morale. But in this instance, they're saying it's about the money. It seems like morale's not the issue, it's the money, and that's the crux of the issue.
Right. And there was a study, a RAND study commissioned by the Department of Defense, which looked into the implications of allowing transgender individuals to serve openly in the military. And this was one aspect. How much will it cost? Because if they're in the military as a certain gender and then they decide to switch to another, that all of that medical care is covered by the military. But this study found that the cost would be low compared to all of the other costs and all of the other medications and things that are provided and medical attention that is provided to soldiers when they're serving. It's a tough spot for the military because they've been handed down a policy, which is the one that was handed out last year. And even though Secretary Mattis delayed that review last month, the military they've already been moving in the direction where they've been educating soldiers in the military on how to interact with transgender people, and just saying basically equality, just stressing equality and treating everyone equally and with respect. And just last month, my own reserve unit held a transgender sensitivity training class, and a lot of questions were answered. For instance, what happens if you walk into a bathroom and you can't really tell which direction what gender that person is, what happens, situations like that. And then there were other situations that the commanders couldn't really address, couldn't really answer, because they say this will be on a case-by-case basis. So there are soldiers that don't care about serving next to someone who's transgender, and then there are others who still have a lot of questions.
In your reserve, in your Iraqi tours of duty, did you come across transgender? And I mean, how pervasive is it in the military?
Not that I know of. I've always said no, I don't think so. But then again, I mean, I really don't know if I have come across someone that was transgender, especially while deployed. I mean, it's just unclear how this will move forward. I mean, when you're in a deployed situation, I remember being in Kuwait before deploying to Baghdad and going to these like man-made showers. And I mean, there are so many things going through your mind about, you have to be safe, don't be complacent, looking out, you're carrying your weapon around. Like, there's so much going on that's like the last thing on your mind. And it's like commanders have said in these training classes, just, do your job and this will get worked out. And a lot of these training classes like these were laid out and presented to units when, gays and lesbians were openly accepted. Right. So
here's what I don't understand. Why don't they just, if money's the issue, why don't they just say, hey, we won't pay for the transgender surgery? Not all transgender get the surgery. If you want to get the surgery, we're not paying for it, but you can serve openly. I don't understand why that isn't a compromise.
Right. I mean, that's a great question. I mean, it's probably because if you're serving in the military, you're supposed to get covered 100%. So
we lost Stephanie Ramos.
But her point being that
if it's covered by insurance, it's covered by insurance, and so that's your deal. Yeah. No, interesting. All right, there you go. 728.